I've entitled this video, Never Divide by Zero. And before we get into the explanation for that, let's talk about division a little bit. Let's take something that every third grader is familiar with, although the third grader may not see it like this. This is the preferred way of writing a division in middle school and above. It is a fraction, it's 42/6, but it's also 42 divided by 6. Of course, third graders see it this way and this way. And third graders learn that this division is part of a fact family. 6 times 7 or 7 times 6 is 42, so 42 divided by 6 is 7, 42 divided by 7 is 6. But I think it's important to not lose sight of the connection. We sort of take those fact families for granted. What I mean by that is, when we write this, 42 divided by 6, we're being asked the question. We're being asked a question about multiplication. We're being asked, what can you multiply 6 by to get 42? And it's always in that order. Whatever the answer is, or whatever the value of this fraction is, the question mark times the denominator has to equal the numerator. And of course, the question mark in this case is 7. This understanding of division is crucial for understanding why you can't divide by 0, but also when middle school students first start to learn about dividing with fractions. This is a specific problem that I've used for years, and most of the time, fifth graders who haven't been exposed to this before somehow, they're going to say 4, a lot of them, and a lot of them will say all sorts of other answers that I can't really explain. 4 is a common answer to this, as you might guess. But when I try to lead fifth graders into understanding this division, 12 divided by 1/3, I'll take this approach, and I'll review something like 42 divided by 6, and then I'll say to them, okay, this division is a question about multiplication. We're being asked, what can you multiply 1/3 by to get 12? And then hopefully, within a short time, the students will be comfortable with the fact that question mark has to be 36. Some of them are quite surprised to learn that 12 divided by 1/3 is 36, but they will have already had a little experience with multiplication and should realize that it's 36 that you have to multiply 1/3 by to get 12. So that's just another example of how the definition of division can be valuable. And now on to the subject of the video, division by 0. We'll take two numbers A and B, A over B, or A divided by B equals question mark. And of course, the rule that we learn from an early age, even as early as 3rd grade, we're taught that you can't divide by 0. We can simply say B cannot be 0. That's the rule, but here we're trying to explore why that's true. Well, we need to consider two cases. One case where A does not equal 0, and another case where A does equal 0. Now, in a fraction A over B, the A can be 0. We're considering the two cases because they are different. It's the B that can't be 0. Let's first consider the case where A is not 0. Let's consider, for example, 3 over 0 and equals question mark. Well, according to the definition of division, this means that question mark times 0 equals 3. And then we ask, what could this question mark be? What could this number be? And of course, the answer is it can't be anything. Any number times 0 is 0. There is no number you can multiply 0 by to get 3. So this is not a number. mathematicians say that it's undefined. That's a fancy way of saying it's not a number. And we have to make sure that students realize that 3 over 0 is not 0. It's something different than that. It's a non-number. It's an undefined, something you can't do, you can't have it. And this applies, as far as I know, throughout all of mathematics, no matter how sophisticated one gets. The other cases where a is 0, and that's slightly different, we would say 0 over 0 equals question mark times this 0 in the denominator would equal the 0 in the numerator. And then we look at that and we ask ourselves, what could that question mark be? And this time, that question mark could be any number whatsoever. Any number times 0 is 0. Mathematicians consider that situation to be unacceptable as well, to have a number that could be anything. So this is also undefined. It's undefined for a slightly different reason than 3 over 0, but it's still undefined. So that's a little bit of a presentation about why you can never have 0 in the denominator, or you can never divide by 0. So don't do it. Bye-bye.